out to everyone that come through yesterday, you know, for the you know, the all-time Premier League 11. Again, if you guys haven't seen that yet, then make sure you guys go and give that a check. So obviously our usual stream with myself, Fitz and Jonas. Big up to Fitz, big up to my guy each and every time. Yeah, guys, make sure you go and give that a check. You know, they will be going up in chapters at some point today. So again, if there's anything that you guys want to see us discuss and go straight to, as I said, they'll be in chapters. So yeah, that'll be put up later today. Big up to Foxy Danny as well for coming through. So yeah, as I said, that was enjoyable yesterday, the Premier League all-time 11. I probably won't spoil it for you, you know what I mean? So again, if you haven't seen it, then yeah, make sure you go and you go and watch. Big up to Babs One Diva each and every time as well. Says big up Gav, how are you today? Yeah, I'm all good. I'm all good. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm just literally yeah, as I said, I enjoy coming on stream with you guys, you know, and discussing football. And today is going to be an interesting one. And as always, keep your questions and comments coming through. And but no, apart from that, I'm all good. I'm all good. You know, obviously Tuesday, you know, obviously I think there's football tonight, actually. I think Wolves are playing Arsenal. I think Arsenal will be the favourites to win. But something's telling me, you know, I don't know why, but I can see Wolves picking up a point at least. I don't know why. Because I think the last game they played against them, you know, if we're honest, should have been probably a draw anyway. And at home, and as we know, Wolves have been better as of late. I think Wolves might pick up something. But I think Arsenal obviously will be the favourites. And we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, so football tonight. But apart from that, yeah, apart from that, you know, I'm all good. Hope everyone is well too as well. So yeah, listen, we're gonna get into it anyway. So you know, I've not included the midfield because I've done the midfielders already. You know, obviously I've spoken about the likes of Carlos Baleba, you know, Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson as well, and a few other alternatives to those three. Obviously Sandro Tonali as well. So but I'm going to be looking at three other players. You know, obviously you guys can see in the thumbnail as well. I'll be looking at three other players for me that I believe, you know, can be part of Manchester United next season. You know, and again, all three players, you know, if we're looking at the combined total for all three, you're probably looking at well over probably 100 million, over 100 million for them, maybe even over 150 million, you know. But there's three players, you know, 21, 23 and 25, you know, all good ages, and probably three players that we would look at as well to be, you know, realistic signings. And again, let me know what you think. And I'm looking at those three, apart from the midfield, as positions that we probably do need to look at as well. So again, Lewis Hall, Murillo, and Illiman N'Diaye, you know. And again, I think we've been linked very heavily to Illiman N'Diaye. And, you know, I see some quotes yesterday that he's actually, I think he actually said that, you know, Man United is the best stadium he's played at, you know. And obviously Mamba's come in there now. And Mamba, listen, don't worry about us bottling top four because you lot have got Wolves tonight, yeah? And let's see, man, because if you guys don't beat Wolves, best believe, boy, I'll be back here later tonight. So, yeah, listen, I will be live tonight anyway, guys. So, yeah, I'll probably do a reaction to the Wolves and the Arsenal game. And as I said, man, Arsenal best win, man, because could you imagine if Arsenal don't pick up 3 points? It is going to be panic stations, you know, so don't worry about us. But yeah, listen, Lewis Hall, Murillo, and Illiman N'Diaye. And Illiman N'Diaye, for me, you know, as I've mentioned before, he's someone that, in terms of left wingers, I think he's probably one of the favourites to get, if I'm honest, because, I think if we're looking at Premier League proven, I'm only really looking at as a realistic signing. I know people have mentioned Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon's unrealistic purely because Newcastle are going to ask for a lot of money. Again, I'm not sure what his wage is saying and what his contract is saying, but Newcastle are going to ask for a lot of money, so it's not realistic. And again, Anthony Gordon's not really someone that I would be looking to sign for Man United, if I'm honest. I do think Anthony Gordon's a decent player, but I think Illiman N'Diaye, for me, let's not forget, Illiman N'Diaye, formerly of Sheffield United as well. And again, you can clearly see he's got the quality to play for a team that is challenging for Champions League and league title. And I think the fact that the comments have come out, him saying, that the best stadium he's played at is Old Trafford. I think everything points towards him, wanting to come to Manchester United. Again, it's going to have to be what's in the thinking of Ineos, what's in the thinking in terms of what positions they want to improve. I think the midfield is fairly obvious, but I think left wing, I'm putting left back in there because I'm looking at, as I said, I'm looking at Patrick Dorgu, because Dorgu for me is a left back, and I would like to see Dorgu as the long-term solution at left back. But again, if we're not going to, if we're looking at as a replacement for Luke Shaw, if he does move on, and again, Malacia, what's happening to him as well? You got Diego Leon, who's on loan, I believe. But is he going to be good enough? I'm not sure. There is players there, and this is why I'm looking at Lewis Hall. And Lewis Hall, for me, is probably a bit on the side of unrealistic. And let's not forget as well, Lewis Hall is formerly of Chelsea. Lewis Hall is formerly a midfield player. Obviously very competent now at left back. And it's crazy to think that Newcastle have Chelsea's old academy players as fullbacks, which is mad, And they're two of the best fullback pairings in the league. Who would have thought that? So again, that is great scouting from Newcastle. And now if you want either player, you're probably looking at upwards of 80 million for both players, which is crazy. But as I said, I'm looking at left backs in this league. Again, you guys know that I've said Hadji, Malick Diouf is someone that I would like United to be in for. But if we're being serious, I think Lewis Hall really is one of the best left backs in this league, no doubt. Only 21 years of age as well. And as I said, I think he's more on the unrealistic side, but I'm just hoping in the summer, there is some sort of noise. Even if United, was to put a bid in for Lewis Hall, and it gets rejected, at least that will show some sort of intent that United mean business. Because, as I've said already, I think those three players that you guys can see in the thumbnail, they're three players for me that, along if obviously as well, if we recruit properly in the midfield, I'm expecting, a title challenge next season. I don't think that's out of the question. Again, do I believe we get those three players and the midfield as well? 5 players in the summer would be great, but can you really see that happening? I don't. Because I think the plan is going to be the midfield, and again, if we're being honest, we've probably only got one midfielder by the end of the season. Because obviously Casemiro's going, Ugarte should go, and that means it's only Kobbie Mainoo. And again, for me, I want to see Kobbie playing high up the pitch in the number 10. So I'm looking at the midfield and the players that we've mentioned already. I'm looking at 2, maybe 3 players. I think 2 has to be a minimum, and whether you want to promote a youngster. But I'm looking at 2 as a minimum, 3 if we're lucky, So I think that's where the business is going to be done. But I'm looking at left wing, left back, and centre back, really. With centre back probably being probably an outside chance, you know. But the reason I mentioned centre back is because Murillo, for me, I've again on my FIFA career mode, Murillo's my centre back, you know. And what I like about Murillo is that Murillo's only 23, you know, with Illiman N'Diaye 25. So all three of them good ages. But the thing with Murillo actually looks like he looks older. You know what I mean? I actually didn't realize he was actually that young at 23. And I look at him, yeah, and I think whenever I see left-sided centre-backs, you know, because left-sided centre-backs are very rare. So whenever I see a left-sided centre-back, you know, and they're of a certain level, you know, they're always players for me that we should be snapping up, because I know we've got Aiden Heaven, and Heaven's still young. But I'm looking at Murillo as someone that, if we was to move on a Lisandro Martinez, you know, could Murillo fit the profile of what Martinez has and better? And for me, there's no doubt in that Murillo, for me, is an upgrade on Lisandro, because Murillo and Lisandro are probably very similar in height, I think, as well. Murillo's stronger, he's quicker, you know. On the ball, I think he's probably as good as Martinez, if not better. In terms of his line-breaking passes, again, I think it's probably quite equal, you know, in terms of that. Especially defending the wide areas, you know, Murillo excels there because he's got the pace and the strength. And I think Murillo, for me, he's primed to go to, you know, one of the top teams. And again, you're hearing that Chelsea are looking at him. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of I'm trying to think at Liverpool. You know, I know Liverpool are looking at Van der Ven, but Murillo's there if they're looking for a left-sided centre-back. And remember, I've always said that Liverpool should be playing a three at the back with the players they have. You know, and again, it'll get more out of Van Dijk for me. But Murillo's someone for me that I would love Man United to sign, but it's unlikely because it means you're going to have to more or less get rid of Lisandro. And I think the business that Man United probably want to do this season is probably the midfield. And Lisandro might be someone that is, you know, probably not a major issue in a sense. Because I'm looking at the defence right now, and De Ligt, Euro, Heaven, I think Harry Maguire is going to sign a new contract as well. And then Lisandro is probably going to be that defence for next season, you know. But I'm looking at Murillo as a defender that we can't really afford to miss out on, if I'm being honest. Because I do think Murillo's that good. I think he's going to be, in terms of the left-sided defenders in the league, I think him and Mickey van der Ven, I think they're two of the best left-sided defenders in the Premier League, you know, in my opinion. And as I said, both of them, for me, would be an upgrade. Van der Ven and Murillo would be an upgrade on Lisandro. And because they're both... Because I think what Lisandro, you would probably say, excels at is that he's good on the ball. But Aiden Heaven, for me, is as good on the ball as Lisandro. But Van der Ven and Murillo are equal to him, if not better. But what both of them excel at, that Lisandro doesn't, is that they're both stronger and they're both quicker than Lisandro. So, yeah, again, man, I definitely do think that... I definitely do think that we should be in for Murillo, you know. Perfect age. You know, how much is Murillo going to cost? I think if Nottingham Forest get relegated, I believe you could probably get Murillo for no more than 50 mil, you know, and that would be a great bit of business for me, you know. Ramos says Pacho or Schlotterbeck would be good as well. Yeah, listen, I think both of them would be good, but if we're being realistic, we're not getting William Pacho because, again, left-footed centre-backs are rare, and, you know, he's a starter for PSG, and PSG are not going to let him go and then having to find a replacement. Again, if they was to bring in, let's say, a Van der Ven, for argument's sake, then they'll be looking at Pacho as moving on, but I don't see them doing that. Schlotterbeck, I do think is good, but I'm looking at Schlotterbeck here as possibly, in terms of order, you know, I mean, if we could get Mickey van der Ven, Mickey van der Ven for me would be the dream, because I think Van der Ven, you know, is one of the best Premier League. I think he's one of the best defenders in Europe. You know, I think he's a game changer. But I think Van der Ven goes to Barcelona. I think it's ideal for him to go to Barcelona because they're crying out for a defender like that, you know, with their high line and his pace on the recovery. And then you've got Murillo. And I think Murillo, for me, the order I would go for would be Van der Ven, Murillo. And again, these are replacements for me for Lisandro. Pacho, I haven't really spoken about because Pacho, for me, is unrealistic because I don't see him leaving PSG. And then Schlotterbeck comes in after that. But Schlotterbeck would be if we can't get the others, you know. And again, we have got Aiden Heaven. But again, this is rotation for, you know, Champions League football, you know, for the cups. And if we've got two left-sided centre-backs, left-footed, that's ideal. And then if you've got the two right-sided centre-backs in De Ligt and Euro, and then Harry Maguire as a fifth choice, you know, you can't go wrong there for me, really, you know. And but yeah, as I said, man, I do think Schlotterbeck's good, but he's not someone that I would take ahead of, you know, the other players that have been mentioned, you know. And again, all those players that I've mentioned, Pacho, Murillo and Van der Ven, they all offer the added bonus that Lisandro doesn't. And I think with Schlotterbeck is more or less, you know, he's more or less Martinez. I think the only difference between him and Martinez is the height. But Schlotterbeck isn't rapid like Van der Ven, Pacho or Murillo. So yeah, he's like another Martinez. So that's why if we're going to go and, if we was to get rid of Martinez and we want to, you know, improve that position, you've got Heaven who's still learning the game. But then again, you've got another player you could bring in that for me would be part of taking this club into the conversations of league title contenders, no doubt. Big Up Fitz says VDV is the defender for me. The aerial presence edges it more for me, but Murillo will be a cheaper option. Yeah, Big Up Fitz, man. I hear it. And I think what Van der Ven's USP, his unique selling point is the pace. Because as I said before, man, I don't think there's a quicker defender in world football. You know, if we're looking at the quickest defenders in terms of any position, you're probably looking at Nuno Mendes and Van der Ven. You know, and again, do I believe Van der Ven stays at Tottenham next season? I think for Van der Ven's career and where Tottenham are at the moment, he has to move on. And as I said, I think Barcelona is ideal for him. But for me, if we could get Van der Ven and have Van der Ven and De Ligt, right, listen, you'll be hearing no arguments from me, man, because Van der Ven, De Ligt, Heaven and Euro as a four, listen, that is an elite four for me, no doubt, you know. But yeah, I do like Murillo. I think Murillo is very good, and I do think Murillo is realistic, and I'll definitely try and get Murillo. Because I think Van der Ven will cost more than Murillo, but Murillo's one is more about if Nottingham Forest get relegated. Because I'm telling you this now, yeah, I think he gets snapped up by any of the top 6 teams that are challenging for Champions League or Premier League. And I would love Man United to be in the race for it, but I just don't think Man United are probably looking at that position right now. I think they're looking at the midfield first and foremost. And then, you know, if Lisandro was to get moved on, you know, Lisandro is playing well at the moment, but I'm looking to the future. But, I'm thinking these players would be an upgrade on him. But whether Man United are looking at that or not, I'm not too sure. But big up Fitz, man, for the comment. Yeah, big up to Shaheen Afridi, man. Big up. You look like Patrice Evra. Is that because he's a black man, yeah? Is that what it is, yeah? Is that what you're doing, Shaheen? Any black man, you just try to put us in the same boat. Is that what it is, yeah? No, I mean, I'm only joking, man. But I can't see the Patrice Evra links, to be fair. That's the first I've heard, you know. but is what it is, isn't it? The only manager that can stop Arteta is Pep. After he's gone, Arteta is that guy. Yeah, all right, Mamba, man. We've heard it all before, man. We've heard it all before. No, laugh aloud, look like in a good way. Yeah, big up Shaheem, man. I was just joking, man. I can't really see it myself, but if you say so, man. If you say so. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think about Murillo, Lewis Hall, and Illiman N'Diaye. I think if we're looking at, you know, signing those players, as I said, it's going to be upwards for me in total of 150 million. But it's gonna be a case of you know, certain players being moved on. I mean, I look at Lewis Hall, really. I think Lewis Hall, you would say, is probably the next Luke Shaw. You know, he's probably the next Luke Shaw in that sense of the next up-and-coming left-back, English left-back. So maybe if, you know, Luke Shaw does get moved on, yeah, maybe if Luke Shaw does get moved on, you know, Lewis Hall will be someone that might be considered. But again, I don't see Newcastle letting go of him. I believe he signed a new contract recently, or he's going to sign a new one as well. So that's unrealistic. So yeah, man, I think if I'm looking at left backs, if we're not going to use Patrick Dorgu there, which I think we should, I'm looking at El Hadji, Malick Diouf, or Lewis Hall, and I think Malick Diouf will be a more affordable option than Lewis Hall. But Malick Diouf for me is someone that he has got growth in his game, you know. But again, a lot of it's going to depend in the summer because the midfield is where we're going to be targeting, and as I said, man, I think these other positions, apart from probably left wings, I think left back and centre back, I think they'll be last resort, you know. But I'm hoping that, you know, Ineos can surprise us and go in for these kind of players, because I'm looking at Murillo and he strengthens us, you know. And if we miss out on him, best be sure the likes of a Chelsea, Arsenal won't go for him. Obviously, they've got Gabriel, Hincapié, and Calafiori are actual centre backs as well, so they're covered in that position. Man City again have got Josko Gvardiol, who's out injured, and he's a big miss for them as well. They just brought in Mark Guehi as well. They got Ruben Diaz, Kusanov. So they're stacked for centre-backs. We've mentioned Chelsea. Liverpool, again, he could be a possibility. And again, I think, you know, if Liverpool are smart, they should go for a left-sided centre-backs. And if they're going to go Premier League proven, then Van der Ven and Murillo really should be players that they're actually looking at, if I'm honest. Who else is there? I mean, Aston Villa, you know, I think if Aston Villa was to go and get, which, again, I've not heard any news about it, but if Aston Villa were to go and get a Van der Ven or a Murillo, that would show that they mean business. You know, they've got Pau Torres there, obviously Tyrone Mings, but for them to go to another level, they for me, would have to move on Tyrone Mings. And if they were to get a Murillo or a Van der Ven, let's say, Champions League football, that takes their defence up a notch. And I'll go as far and say, if Aston Villa was to target a Murillo or a Van der Ven to go with Ezri Konsa, you know, who's to say that that won't be one of the best centre-back pairings in the league? You know, so that's something that Villa should be looking at if they want to be serious, regular contenders for the Champions League and maybe, you know, a title challenge, who knows? And that's it, really. Yeah, that's the top teams. Obviously, we mentioned United already. So, but yeah, let's wait and see what happens there. As I said, Illiman N'Diaye for me, I do think Man United are definitely looking at N'Diaye. I do think they're looking at him. But I think everything is pointing towards them sorting out this midfield, you know, because as we know, man, it's a massive area that needs to be looked at. Guys, make sure we're smashing the likes as well. Obviously, free content, you know, make sure you come in, smash the like button, help the channel to grow. And again, if you're new in here, make sure you sub to the channel make sure you share the channel and make sure you support by smashing the likes. You know, it's just one press of the button if you're enjoying the content. As I said, it helps the channel to grow. And let me know your comments, guys. Let me know what you think of the 3 players that could be players that, you know, we can be targeting in the summer, other than the midfielders. Because I generally do believe, yeah, if we get 2 midfielders from, you know, as I said, Baleba for me is a must, you know, and then I would love Adam Wharton as well, but I don't know if we get Wharton. You know, Tonali for me, Tonali, Baleba. I mean, Camavinga's the dream, as you guys already know. But I don't think we get Camavinga. But if it's Tonali, Baleba midfield, or Baleba, because I think Baleba's sorted already, so that's why I keep bringing in Baleba's name. But if we can get a Baleba Tonali, a Baleba Wharton, Baleba Anderson, you know, I'm happy with either, really. But I think definitely out of those names I've mentioned, we have to be getting 2 of them. And if we can get that sorted, and then one of the 3 that we've got, you know, on the thumbnail, if we can try and get one of them, listen, I'll go with what we've got already. You know, why can't we be in for a title challenge next season? Because we're 4th at the moment, and, you know, some of the games that we've dropped points in under Ruben Amorim, you know, I believe with Carrick in charge, their points on the board, and we're looking at a title challenge at the moment. So this is where I'm looking at, man. You know, Shaheen says Barca should get Van der Ven. I agree. As I said, I think, you know, Barcelona's got Van der Ven written all over it, to be honest with you. You know, you think of their defense right now. You know, they got Ronald Araujo. You know, he does suffer quite a few injuries. Pau Kabasi, you know, as well. They have been playing that Gerard Martin at the back there. So, yeah, they're crying out for me for a left-sided centre-back. And Van der Ven fits the bill, man, with his pace. So, yeah, I wonder if Barca, you know, put a bid in for him. Because he is going to cost, I believe, I think the starting bid will probably be about 60 million for Van der Ven. You know, I do think it'll be that. But yeah, I think definitely, man, he's definitely someone they need. But let's see. Yeah, big up to Verbic. Big up. Hi, Gav. Looking handsome as always. Boy, some zesty comments. But yeah, listen, man. Big up yourself for coming on. What do you think Barca needs after their 2-1 loss to Girona? New tactic, new players, new coach. Good question, Verbic. You know what I'd say, yeah? The fact that they got beat by Girona, you know, I think now they're 2 points behind Real Madrid as well, which is mad because, you know, they were comfortably ahead of Real Madrid. And it just shows you, man, that, you know, it's you know what I mean? Obviously, when things are going well, man, you have to capitalize, you know, and obviously Barca have dropped points against Girona. What I would say, yeah, is, do I think Hansi Flick is as good as what many make out to believe? I don't think he is. I don't really know what the problems is. I mean, one thing I would say from having watched Barca, it does confuse me why they play Eric Garcia in midfield, you know, because I know, and again, Pedri's out injured, and Pedri's a massive miss. You know, Pedri, for me, with Yamal, are their 2 best players, you know. And Pedri's so important because, along with Frankie de Jong, you know, they help to retain possession. You know, Pedri's very creative as well. You know, he kind of kills the pressure from the opposition with how good he is on the ball. You know, he's very press resistant as well. It's hard to say what's actually missing because you could put it down to a one-off, you know. But I've seen Barca play a few times, you know, and the game they played against PSG earlier in the Champions League, you know, PSG ripped them apart with the pace, really. So if I'm looking at Barca's best team right now with everyone fit, for me, I would play Juan Garcia in goal. The back four of Alejandro Balde at left back, Jules Koundé at right back, and then Ronald Araujo and Pau Kabasi. And then the midfield two for me would be Frankie de Jong and Pedri. I would play obviously Yamal on the right, Lewandowski through the middle, and obviously they've got to think about Lewandowski and how they're going to replace him. Because I know Ferran Torres has done a very good job, but they're probably going to be trying to target, and this is what I'm trying to say to you, the striker market in this era is dead. So how are you going to replace a Lewandowski? Because there's not really Lewandowskis out there, so they need to be looking at that. But for me, it's the 10 and the left wing. Because you would say Rafinha has to play because of his numbers, yeah? And again, Rafinha is a leader for them, and he does score important goals. But it's whether you play Rafinha in the 10 or play him from the left. Now, for me, I do prefer the inverted. Yeah, I prefer left footers on the right and right footers on the left, because the way that I see it, it gives more options for attack. Whether you've got fullbacks on the overlap, and then, if you're playing inverted, you can cut in and get shots off or link with the striker. But you're looking at really between Fermin Lopez, Rafinha, Rashford, or probably Ferran Torres or Dani Olmo as starters in that team, which again is what they're probably having to settle on, because there's no argument for Yamal. Lewandowski is proven, even though at times he probably does need a rest. I'd probably go with Rashford on the left, and then probably Rafinha in the 10. And I do like Fermin Lopez, but I'm just basing it on the inverted, because if you're going to play the right foot on the left, it's either going to be Rashford or Ferran Torres. So I'll probably say Rashford from the left, and then you've got to probably put Rafinha in there and play him in the 10. But again, these things could change. So I think if he's got a balanced team when everyone's fit, that is a strong team. But yeah, it's difficult to say really if it's the manager, the tactics, or the players. You probably have to say it might be a bit of all three of them. But they're gonna have to bounce back. They're firmly obviously through to the next round of Champions League, and the fact that Real Madrid now are 2 points clear, they have to sort it out really. But who knows? But yeah, great question, man. I think definitely in the summer though, they need to be looking at a Van der Ven for centre back. Obviously a left winger as well, and a replacement for Lewandowski. And I think if they was to get those three positions sorted out, left centre back, left winger, and striker, I think they could be back on their way to being, one of the favourites. Because I do think they're one of the favourites for the Champions League and for the league this season, with a few tweaks. But they definitely need three positions to sort out in the summer. But they're going to cost money. And as we know, because I don't think they keep Rashford personally. I don't know if they keep Rashford. I think they probably look at who's an up-and-coming left winger. Maybe a Kenan Yildiz, you never know. But they probably be looking at who's an up-and-coming left winger that they can get to pay probably less money than what Rashford will cost. So I think that's what they probably look at. But their thing for me is looking at a Lewandowski long-term replacement. And I don't believe they're going to use Ferran Torres as a permanent solution. I think Torres will be part of the squad, someone that can cover multiple positions as well. But they've got positions to fill, man. That's what I would say. But big up for the question anyway. Van der Ven could cost 40 million, not going to lie. And we probably don't have enough money to buy him. But he would fit amazingly. Eric was originally a midfielder, by the way. Yeah, listen, Eric Garcia is a midfielder, obviously by trade, a DM. Obviously, when he went to Man City, obviously he played centre-back. And obviously he went back to Barcelona. And as I said, yeah, he has played in midfield, but he is obviously a DM, but he's a DM come centre back. But what I would tell you is that Van der Ven's not going to cost 40 million. So I'm not quite sure where that information's come from, but Van der Ven's not going to cost 40 million. Because if Van der Ven was 40 million, then you're going to have Barcelona, Real Madrid, you know, all the top teams in the Premier League, you know, Bayern Munich, all them teams will be in for him if it was 40 million. So that ain't true. That's not true. But Van der Ven is gonna cost the starting point will be 60 mil, because you have to factor in that his age, the fact that he's one of the best defenders in the Premier League as well. He's not gonna go for 40 million. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. But definitely, you know, he's a top player, man. And he's definitely someone that's going to be looked at by a lot of the top teams. Which country do you think can win the World Cup? Again, I've already given my prediction. And again, I'm looking forward to the World Cup. I'm looking forward to when the squad gets announced as well. So, guys, we are going to be doing a lot of content on the World Cup. So, live watch-alongs for a lot of the games. And we are going to be doing... you know, once the squads are announced, I'll be doing a breakdown of all the squads. For me, if I'm looking at, I've always said this, if I'm looking at 4 teams that will be amongst the favourites for me to win the World Cup. If we're looking in Europe, for me, I can't look further than France and Spain. And then if we're looking at the South American, I think we have to go with Brazil and Argentina, you know, because these countries always come alive when it comes to World Cups. So if I'm looking at four teams, I can't look no further than look no further than those 4 teams. But then again, there could be a few surprises, but they're the 4 that I'm going to be looking at as the favourites for the World Cup this year. Ferran isn't a good striker. That guy misses, like, if he thinks he scores, he would die. Yeah, listen, I think Ferran Torres was actually a right winger at Valencia. If anyone forgot, you know, he come through as a right winger, and then when he went to Man City, obviously Pep did play him on the wing to start with. Then Pep played him through the middle, and then obviously the same thing with Barcelona. They played him out wide, but now he's more or less the backup to Lewandowski. But he's probably a very good squad player because he's someone that can play through the middle and out wide as well. So he covers multiple positions. But I don't believe Barcelona look at him as the long-term replacement for Lewandowski. You know, I think he'd be someone that's a very good squad option. Someone that, you know, isn't really going to throw his toys at the pram, really, if he's not starting. So, yeah, that's where I kind of see it. Big up to Karen Kumar, says Kvaratskhelia, Wharton and DeMarco. Yeah, listen, I mean, I'm just gonna put this down plain and simple. Yeah, we are not getting Kvaratskhelia as much as I would like him, and there's a reason why I've never mentioned Kvaratskhelia, because he's unrealistic. Because PSG are not selling us any of their players. You know, they're not going anywhere. And even if they do sell us their players, you know, the likes of Kvaratskhelia, Nuno Mendes, Pacho, you know, who else is there? Vitinha. Any player you want from their team, yeah, you're going to be looking at paying upwards of 80 million. And Man United are not going to go and do that, you know. Adam Wharton, again, Adam Wharton's a top player. I would love Adam Wharton at Man United. But I just think Adam Wharton's going to end up at Man City. I think Man City are going to go for him. I can just see it. But if we can get Adam Wharton, then listen, man, that would be a great signing because he's a top player. And Fede DeMarco, again, the reason I haven't mentioned DeMarco is because DeMarco, for me, I see him as more as a wing-back, not as a left-back. I think if we're going for actual left-backs, you know, or Premier League proven, you know, you've got, as I said, you've got Malick, Hadji, Malick Diouf, who's young, and Lewis Hall for me. You know, Patrick Dorgu for me should be, you know, the first choice left-back, in my opinion. But if I'm looking at Fede DeMarco, Fede DeMarco would have been an ideal solution if he was playing the 3-4-2-1 under Amorim. But I think DeMarco's a good player, but maybe he's more suited to playing wing back, you know. But yeah, listen, they're three good names that, you know, which would be a great window. But I don't think we sign any of them, and definitely not Kvaratskhelia, you know. So I think if we're being honest, the most realistic one is probably Adam Wharton. But then again, I think Wharton goes to Man City. So yeah, some good names, but I don't think we get any of them free, unfortunately. Julian Alvarez in the summer, which again, Arsenal are not doing that, so that's a lie. You know what I mean? And again, Julian Alvarez is going to cost about 100 million from Atletico Madrid. And the fact that, you know, you've got Havertz on 280, you know, Gabriel Jesus is on about 250, I believe, or maybe a bit more than that. And you've just signed Gyökeres. I don't know why you're thinking you're going to go and get Julian Alvarez. I don't know where that's come from. So, yeah, that's just fake news, man. But listen, you can dream, put it that way. Blonde Olmo is cooking in 2026. He even got us that pen against Girona, only for Yamal to miss it. I didn't even know Yamal missed the penalty. That's crazy. Didn't know that. I didn't even see the game. But listen, Dani Olmo is a very good player. And Dani Olmo, for me, even myself, I actually forgot about Dani Olmo being included in the team. Yeah. And I think that's testament, well, not testament, but that just shows you, yeah, that, you know, Dani Olmo really hasn't hit the heights that was expected. You know, and to think that Fermin Lopez is playing ahead of him, you know, as well, you know, who would have saw that coming? But I like Olmo. I do like Olmo, but I think next season, man, it's probably going to be make or break for him because he hasn't been getting the game time that many would have predicted, you know. But I do think he's a good player. Big up to Exedra. Big up, my guy. Big up. Yeah, big up, man. Antonio Nusa could be cheaper for Barca at left wing. Yeah, listen, I mentioned Nusa for Man United. You know, if I'm looking at left wingers for Manchester United, you know, if I'm looking outside the league, Nusa was one of them. You know, obviously there's been talk about Diamande as well. Obviously someone mentioned Kenan Yildiz as well, but Kenan Yildiz we're not going to get. Again, Diamande, I mean, if we're in for Diamande, I'd probably prefer to get Premier League proven, if I'm honest. You know, Illiman N'Diaye, maybe a Crescencio Somerville. And Nusa, I think Nusa falls into the bracket of the Diamande because I don't know if Man United really are going to go outside the Premier League for a left winger. I think they might stick to the Premier League proven. That's the thing. So Nusa is a good shout, but yeah, for Barcelona, again, he could be a good shout. I think if we're looking at experienced left wingers that are probably mid-20s, you know, or maybe just a bit later than that, again, there ain't really players out there that are gonna be gettable, you would say. So yeah, Nusa, you know, remember they were looking at Nico Williams as well last season before he signed that contract. So again, yeah, Nusa might be someone that Barca might target, you know. But yeah, I mean, remember they had Ansu Fati, you know, and Ansu Fati was meant to be what Yamal is now. And I think what's killed it for Fati is his injuries. So I don't really know what Barca are looking at in that position for me personally. But Nusa is a good player. Victor Font, yeah, obviously Victor Font right back. But I don't think Victor Font, does Victor Font have a future at Barcelona? I'm not too sure. Obviously Koundé's there, you know. Obviously Koundé's actually a centre back, but plays right back now. Maybe. I don't know. I think Victor Font's on loan at the moment as well. Can't remember who he's on loan at, but I think he's on loan. So yeah, it's tough to see what they do, man, in them positions. Big up to Dereles as well. Big up. Gav, who would you get, Wharton or Stiller? Great question. Great question. I know you love Angelo Stiller, etc. I would probably get Adam Wharton, and that's purely because, yeah, that's purely because, again, all three of them are left-footed, yeah. But I believe we need to get a Baleba in our midfield. So if we're gonna get a Baleba in our midfield, because Baleba for me would be the box to box, aggressive, ball carrier, press resistant midfielder that we need. So this is why, and he's left footed as well. This is why I think Baleba's a must. Yeah. And then if you're gonna get a Baleba, you need to go and get a controller next to him. And for me, if I'm looking at Premier League proven and someone that can do that job, it will have to be Wharton over Stiller. And I do think Stiller's good, but I think Stiller only comes into it if we wasn't to get Baleba or Wharton. And I think we have to get both of them. Definitely one of them. So that's why I'm not gonna say Stiller. I'll say Wharton. But for me, Camavinga's been the dream for years. I'd love Man United to just go and get Camavinga, regardless of the injuries, because Camavinga for me would overtake Baleba. But I don't think we're gonna get Camavinga. So I'm looking at Baleba Tonali, as I said, Baleba Wharton, Baleba Anderson. I think Anderson has got Liverpool written all over him. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at, man, personally. Gav is a big Diouf fan. He's been hyping him since the early start of AFCON. You know what it is? It's not to say that I'm a huge Diouf fan. I'm just looking at Diouf and what he could give to this team, because for me, I would like to see Patrick Dorgu as the long-term solution, But I'm looking at Diouf if it's a case where, because again, like if we've got two left-back options and Luke Shaw goes, Malacia goes, having a Dorgu and a Diouf as two options at left-back, as an overlapping fullbacks with the physicality, I think, that would be a good solution, having two players that are kind of a similar profile for both positions. That's why I'm saying Hadji, Malick, Diouf. But I like Lewis Hall as well. I think Lewis Hall is very good. But I think Diouf is more realistic than Lewis Hall, because Lewis Hall is going to cost a lot of money. And even that, I just don't think Newcastle let him go, because you have to factor in who are Newcastle going to go and get to replace him if he does go. So they'll be looking at that. Someone that's only 21 as well, and he's one of the best left backs in the league. So, but yeah, I do think Malick Diouf has got growth, no doubt. I wish we could get him. I wanted us to sign João Neves and Kvaratskhelia before PSG got them. I don't get our system. I can see that these are top players from my house. What do these lot in the office actually do? But you know what, Karen, yeah? This is the thing, yeah? Like, when the way that I've consumed football over the years, yeah, and just what I know in football in general, from playing, coaching, and just watching, over 30 years of watching football, yeah, and the leagues around the world, it's like, for me, I can just identify players easily, or what, like the way that I would set this Man United team up in terms of the players I would play, I would have every base covered, really, and this is why I've always said, yeah, a Man United team with the current players they have now, yeah, of everyone, when everyone's fit, Lamens, Dorgu at left back, Mazraoui right back, De Ligt and Yoro, Kobe, Casemiro, Ahmad in the 10, Mbuemo on the right, Cunha on the left, Xerxes up top, yeah. The reason I'm saying that team, yeah, is because I can see the potential and how good this team can be. And then in the summer, you go and get, because obviously Casemiro's going, you go and get a couple of midfielders, you move on Bruno, you can play Kobe in the 10, you can play Ahmad in the 10, Cunha can play 10, and you go and get the players that can take this team on. for me, really, the way that I see how this team can be, you know, this team will be would be in with a title shout. You know, if I had my way, if it was to get to be bringing in certain players, you know, but again, the fact that, you know, the board, you know, and I'm saying before probably, well, I'm saying Ineos actually, yeah, because they did bring in certain players. But the fact that the board actually saw value in Mason Mount, Manuel Ugarte, you know, is criminal, really. You know, it is criminal because you mean to tell me, yeah, that you spent about 100 and, well, about over 100 million on Mount and Ugarte, and you're paying 250 to Mount, and you're paying whatever you're paying to Ugarte. Like, that is wasted money. And whoever saw to kind of get those players in, again, man, it's true, man. It actually makes you think to yourself, you know, what the hell were they watching? Because it is poor. But unfortunately, man, we've got these players now. But the Neveses and the Kvaratskhelia were always there. But yeah, unfortunately, man, the club didn't make good use of it. Savinho's gettable. Yeah, he Exedra, bro. I would love Savinho, but the Savinho one for me now is unrealistic because we've got Mbuemo. Because if you're looking at left-footed wide players, it wouldn't make sense going to get because again, I don't really want to play. You know, I know there's people out there that prefer to see left-footed players out on the left, but I like the inverted personally. Yeah, it doesn't, on that basis, it doesn't make sense to go and get a Savinho when you've got Mbuemo and Ahmad can play there as well, and you've got Shea Lacey coming through. The Savinho one doesn't make sense unless you're looking to play him as a left winger, which again I don't really want to see. But I do rate Savinho, you know, and I think, you know, Man City could do with him right now, man. I know he's out injured, but I'm not sure how long he's out for. But City could definitely do with him now, and I do think he's a very good player. But as I said, yeah, I just don't see where he could fit in at the moment. Man United should get a 1 ball winning 6 and then a playmaker 8. But this is why. This is why, yeah, the Baleba Wharton is perfect for that. But between Baleba, Wharton, Anderson, the realistic ones, and Tonali, all 4 of them players cover that. So yeah, and I do believe we're gonna sort that out anyway. You know, I do believe we're gonna sort it out in the summer. Boubacar Kamara, yeah, we're not gonna get him either. But I do think he's good. But Kamara's not gonna happen. Malick Fofana, yeah, I hear it, but I think Malick Fofana falls into the Antonio Nusa argument, because I think for left wing the club are probably going to go for Premier League proven, and then if not, that's when you'll start seeing the likes of, you know, Fofana, the Diamandes, the Nusas, you know, them kind of players getting mentioned, you know. Please stop the Prem proven gimmick. Look at players like Gyökeres, Garnacho, Liam Delap, Kirkes. But again, you like, when I'm saying Prem proven, like, understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we have to go Prem proven. I'm just telling you that's what I think the club are gonna do. Because I wouldn't go Prem proven. I wouldn't. But I think the club, in terms of certain positions, are going to be looking at Prem proven, whether we like it or not. And I think if you're looking at central midfield and left wing, they're probably looking at Premier League proven. You know, because the players you've mentioned, Gyökeres is shit, Garnacho is shit. I think Liam Delap's a good player, but he's been poor. And Kirkes has struggled. He's getting better. So, again, I'm not talking about me personally wanting Prem proven. I'm just telling you that's what I think the club might do. Eli Krupi. Yeah, I mean, again, it's Krupi's first season. So, I mean, I've heard Krupi, that I heard talk about Krupi, but that's not going to happen. I mean, again, Krupi didn't start the season off. So it's kind of difficult to say, let's go for Krupi right now. And not to mention, we don't, where Krupi plays in the 10 or as a striker, you know, we've got players there already that really you don't need to go and spend money on a Krupi. So that's not going to happen. Gotta get Wharton. I agree. I think, as I said to you before, Baleba and Wharton for me is what I'd like to see. But I think the reason that I'm skeptical about Wharton is because I just think Wharton goes to Man City. I think Wharton goes Man City, and I think Elliot Anderson goes to Liverpool. I don't know why. I just got a feeling that that's going to happen. You know, but hopefully we can disrupt that. Yeah, big up Exedra. Bro, I talked about Dango Utara last season, you know. And again, this is where scouting comes into it, yeah. And you have to big up Brentford because Dango Utara was at Bournemouth, yeah. And he wasn't starting week in, week out for Bournemouth. And the fact that they've identified Dango Utara as a replacement for Brian Mbeumo is smart business, you know. And I think they only paid something like 40 million for him, yeah. And from what I've seen of Dango Utara when he first came into the league, you know, he's someone for me that this ain't going to be his last move in this league. I think he's got another move in him because he's a very good player. You know, he's a handful, you know, and he's got quality as well. So, but again, Man United not going to sign Utara because we've already invested in we've already invested in Mbeumo for that position, you know, and I think Mbeumo's good. I don't think he's as good as what a lot of people say, but one thing Mbeumo does get is goals, you know what I mean? But yeah, we're not going to go in for Utara for me, you know, because as I said, we just took Mbeumo and we're not going to go back and take Utara. So I don't know. I think Utara's got another season at Brentford, and if he does well, who knows, man? You know, you could see some teams abroad getting him. Man United should get a 10 as Bruno is going to play for 2 more seasons max. I disagree. And again, I don't want to hear no... Well, I say I don't want to hear it. Again, it's your opinion. But for me, we'll be making a massive mistake if we keep Bruno Fernandes. You know, I know there's people now that are saying because Bruno's playing as a 10, we have to keep him, this and that. Don't make the same mistake. You know, Bruno Fernandes has been at the club now for what, 6 or 7 years, and it's time for Bruno to be moved on. He's on massive money. You know, I'm hearing people say we should give him a pay rise. Like, I don't think these people are fans of Man United, in my honest opinion, because you've got a player that really tried to hold the club to ransom, and now you've got these fans saying give him a pay rise. Like, for me, this is just idiotic, really, because you have fans as well saying Bruno's numbers, and I'll keep saying this, Bruno's numbers are not irreplaceable, because what happens is that you get rid of Bruno and you improve the midfield area, and all it means is that the goals or the assists will be shared around the team. Because I have no doubt that if you move on Bruno Fernandes, move on his wage as well, and then you bring in, you know, 2 actual central midfielders, you know, that will improve the team, you know, you'll find that very quickly that the Bruno Fernandes omission won't be as massive as what a lot of people think. I think a lot of people are just wrapped up in Bruno Fernandes' numbers and think, you know, because of his numbers, you can't do better than Bruno Fernandes, which is a complete lie. And in the day, you can just juggle things around, move Bruno on, and just get better players in other positions. And then, because again, we've got goals in the team. You know, you've got Mbeumo, you've got Cunha, you've got Sesko, you've got Xerxes, you've got Ahmad. You know, I think Kobe will chip in with goals as well. These guys can all get goals. So to say that Bruno will stay for 2 seasons max, I don't think he does. I think Bruno goes this season, and it's the right decision. You know, I'm not of the opinion now that because Bruno's been better under Carrick, and again, For me, he hasn't been outstanding. He hasn't, because he was poor against West Ham. I just think he's playing better because he's being a bit more disciplined in where he's playing, yeah? But I'm not going to start coming on here and start saying, let's keep Bruno Fernandes now. No way. We have to part ways with Bruno at the end of the season. And I tell you this now, if we keep Bruno Fernandes, yeah, beyond this season, the club ain't learnt nothing for me. Because these will be the same people that will tell you, yeah, let's keep Bruno Fernandes. And then when Bruno starts putting in poor performances again, them same people will start saying, we should have got rid of him. You know, look at the bigger picture and just think, it's time to cash in on him. He's on big money. Let's cash in on him and let's revamp this team. You know, but when you're hearing people saying give him a pay rise, it's just idiotic, you know, and it's people that are more interested in Bruno Fernandes than the actual club. So I'm not of that opinion, man. Daniel Pedence, listen, Daniel Pedence, yeah, used to be at Wolves, and he's a very good player, yeah. And again, if you guys have watched Daniel Pedence very closely, yeah, he's the closest player to an Eden Hazard in terms of you know you know what I mean, in terms of the style of play, in terms of you know the stature and height as well. You know, he's basically a poor man's, you would say, Hazard. And that's no slight on Pedence, because Pedence actually has quality, you know, but he's very similar to Eden Hazard if you've seen him play. You know, but he's a good player, man. He is. Fitz says Bruno out and we can rotate Ahmad, Cunha and Manu in a 10. Numbers will be there. Fitz, exactly what I've been saying, bro. Exactly what I've been saying. You know, I don't think people are deep in, you know, how crucial that could be. You know, the fact that, because I don't see too many people talk about this. You know, it's always about, let's keep Bruno for his numbers, you know, and for me, it's a lack of understanding, because if you just think keeping a player because he gets numbers is the be all and end all, you know, when his numbers do dry up, as they have done, don't be surprised, you know. And I think what people need to realize is, what would you rather? 3 players sharing the numbers out, or 1 player just hogging it up for themselves? I mean, do the maths, you know what I mean? And that's what I got to say about that, man, you know. Igor Thiago goes to Spurs, I think, like how they bought Solanke. Igor Thiago's not going anywhere. He's just signed a new contract for Brentford, so he's not going anywhere. So yeah, that's not happening. Yeah, that's not happening. Yeah, guys, as I said, Igor Thiago signed a new contract at he signed a new contract at Brentford the other day, so he's not going anywhere. And again, if anyone wants to buy him now because he signed a new contract, the bidding's gonna start 60 mil, 70 mil. Because let's not forget, he's only what, I think he might be mid-20s, I believe, or might even be slightly younger than that. And he's second top goal scorer in the league to Haaland. So, and the fact he signed a new contract, yeah, it's not happening, bro. It's not happening. It's not happening. Oh yeah, guys, make sure you check out as well. Obviously, I've been doing the greats of the game. So it's the I've done a few content on there. I think I had Romario and JJ Okocha come out. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I know a few of you have reacted to that already. I've got another 2 coming out today as well, which I'm not going to spoil, but they will be coming out definitely at some point today. So yeah, man, it's some good content. Some good content. But yeah, let me know what you guys think on that as well. We are going to wrap it up in a bit though, guys. But yeah, I should be back later tonight. Probably after the Wolves and Arsenal game. So Yeah, listen, Fitz, man. JJ Okocha was ridiculous, as we spoke about yesterday anyway. Yeah, he was ridiculous. Who would you take in their prime, Bale or Di Maria? Do you know what? That is difficult. That is very difficult, but I'd have to say Gareth Bale. And the reason I say Gareth Bale is because Di Maria was class, but I think Bale had more weapons to his game for me. I think he had more weapons to his game. You know, but that's a good shout, man. But I'd probably say, yeah, Gareth Bale. Yeah, listen, Romario was sick, man. As I said, the closest player to Romario was Sergio Aguero, because I've not seen a striker in years like Romario. And Aguero is the closest that I've ever seen to Romario in terms of his sharpness in the box, you know, the finishing. Yeah, man, top players. And yeah, man, Shaheen, they are both clutch players. I agree. But it's got to be Bell for me, man. It's got to be Bell. I don't even think Aguero's close to Romario. Big up, bro. But listen, if you go and watch Aguero, yeah, some of the finishing that he does, the little toe poke finishes that he used to do, yeah, and his sharpness in the box, go and watch Romario and you'll see. Because Romario and him have the same, they're the same, roughly the same height, you know. And what I liked about Romario, just like Aguero, these guys are very sharp in the box, you know what I mean? And the finishing was clinical. And that's why I'm saying that they're both similar. And again, if you look at numbers, Romario in terms of the numbers from players from probably this recent era, I think it was quite comparable. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, that's what I'm going to say. But guys, listen up. I'm going to wrap it up anyway. As I said, should be back a bit later. Should have some, yeah, well, not should have. I would have some greats of the games coming out as well. I'm going to have one coming out probably in the next hour, probably next couple of hours, and then one a bit later today. So yeah, make sure you guys give that a check. As I say, man, some good players I'm gonna discuss that will be coming out. And yeah, let me know what you think, man. Let me know what you think. And guys, on Wednesday, hopefully should be doing a stream with myself and Owen. And again, if anyone else wants to jump on, etc, bro, if you want to jump on, feel free as well, man. I know obviously the timing's a bit different, but we're going to be doing an all-time Manchester United post-Ferguson 11. So yeah, we're going to go through the players. So hopefully do that on Wednesday, tomorrow. I'm going to try and sort out a time. But yeah, if anyone wants to jump on the stream, let me know. Obviously, it'd be myself. Fitz should be coming on as well. And Owen should be coming on as well. But I'm going to try and sort it out. And as I said, make sure you guys have got your notifications on there as well. But yeah, we'll definitely be trying to sort that one out. And as always, make sure you check out all the other content as well. And as always, smash the like button, guys. Sub to the channel and make sure you share the channel. You know, I think these algorithms, man, are not being kind to me at the moment. So, but again, it's good conversation, man. It's good conversation. So, yeah, as I said, I'll be back later, hopefully tonight. Let's see what Arsenal do. What is Arsenal and Wolves tomorrow then, yeah? Is it tomorrow? I'm pretty sure it's today. Let me check. I'm pretty sure it's today. Let's have a check. Yeah, big up Exedra, bro. Big up, man. Big up. Oh, you're right. It is tomorrow. Why did I think it was today? Okay, so cool. That's fair enough. I should probably be back anyway, guys, later tonight. Obviously, if there's any news that drops, or if there's anything that you guys would like me to speak on, then let me know. Make sure you put it in the comments. But yeah, I thought the Arsenal Wolves game was tonight, but it's actually tomorrow. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, as I said, guys, if anything, I might do a. I'll see what fits, and I'll see what fits. If you're free tonight, man, let me know. I'll see what Owen. I'll see if Owen can jump on tonight, and then we'll do a an all-time Man United 11 post Fergie. Okay, yeah, Fitz is about. So, Exedra, bro, if you want to jump on, we'll probably do an evening one. I think it might be a bit difficult for you in the evening, so let me know. But or if anyone wants to jump on, I'm gonna see what Owen's doing, and we'll try and see if we can get this stream for tonight. Probably might be an evening one though, as I said, might be like an 8 o'clock one, or a 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'm not too sure yet, but it's gonna be Man United, obviously all-time 11 post Fergie, and yeah, we'll try and get that going. But keep an eye out, guys, on the schedule, on the notifications, to see when it is. I'll see if we can try and do it tonight. If not, we'll try and hook you up for another day. But as always, big up yourselves. Smash the like button, sub to the channel. Make sure you share the channel. And yeah, we'll catch you guys hopefully a bit later. Take it easy. Oh yeah, guys, keep an eye out for the greats of the game as well. Big up.